Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to fabricate a section of frame rail for this 1971 Camaro. Stay tuned. So here's my first attempt and it doesn't fit that well, so I got to make another one. Basically, I mean, my bend's too wide, I have too much space up here. I didn't do this piece right here because I'm like being held up over here. At first I thought there might be some curve in here, but I took a straight edge and ran it across and it should work. You can see here, again, too wide. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a lot more time to make the template. I'm gonna make it in 3 pieces so that I can get really detailed on kind of what I need here as far as width goes and all that. Just taking one piece and bending it over didn't work so well for me. So I wanna make sure I get template for this side here, and especially down here because we have this piece here where we have to go up and over. And this is where I think I'm having some issues because it's holding it up here. So, all right, so let's go ahead and make the paper templates for this. All right, guys, so the part that I need to get right on the second try is this area here. So it has a contour that follows the body of the car. And to do that, I'm gonna use this contour gauge. I've had this for a long time, so I don't know where I got it, but I'll link to a similar product on Amazon in the description below. The way this works is that you press it up against the surface and these pins slide. And basically you can come in and trace around this to get close, you know, in most cases close enough. So instead of using this piece here, because, you know, it was kind of mangled a little bit trying to get it off the car. So I'm gonna go over to the car and apply this to the frame rail area to get an exact contour of what we need for right there. And then we'll transfer it over to paper. All right, guys, so we got our contour. Here's, you can see what that looks like. So again, we want to make sure we get this contour perfect and then also the height of that frame rail perfect so that we get a really nice fit. All right, so we're going to go ahead and take our contour and transfer it over to paper. I need to leave some space over here because the frame rail extends past a few inches. You can kind of see that right here. We got our flange and then it extends past. We want to make sure we leave enough room to be able to get a good template. So let's start about here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and trace this around. And again, this will be close. It's not gonna be perfect. We might have to trim it up. And right here's where we end. That's the flange side, where the flange ends, but we have a little bit of extra here. So go ahead and mark that where the flange will be. And then we'll come out, you know, we'll clean this up here in a minute, but we're gonna come out this way and then basically up. So let's go get the other side of the contour because the torque box ends right here and then we get back to the body of the car. So let's go transfer that over. All right, so I've reset the gauge and now what I'm gonna go ahead and do is basically start at the end of the frame rail and push it in. I'm not gonna worry about this here because the original piece did not dip down in there. So we're just gonna go ahead straight across and account for this area here and if there's any curve or anything like that. All right, so you can see here that it did go down in the area anyway, but that's okay. We can always push these back up. Right here, this is where the flange ends. So that's what we're interested in. And then we're gonna come this way and there's a little bit of curve there for that bottom flange. So let's go transfer this over to paper. So we're gonna put this where the flange ended, which is about right there. You can kind of see that. And I'll mark that. This is where the flange of the torque box ended, not the flange for the frame rail. So then we have a drop and we need to account for that. We'll go like that, but I don't know if we're actually gonna do that, but we'll just trace it out anyway. And I don't like how much drop I left there, so let's fix that up a bit. So based on what I'm seeing here, got maybe 2 millimeters or so. So come down and over. There we go. So essentially, this is where we want the new flange to be. So it'll be something like that. So this is the flange, right? And then up here we'll actually have the side of the frame rail. So let's go ahead and get the height measurements for this and the length of this here, and then get those on the paper, and then we can cut that side out. All right, guys, so I measured out this flange's width on this piece, and it's about 7/8. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and take the ruler and go across here, marking out 7/8 at the different depths there, and then basically we'll trace a line to get an idea of what the flange would look like. All right, so next looking at the frame rail, you can see that this part is fairly straight. So we need to get heights at a couple different places and then kind of draw a straight line across there. If anything, there would be a little bit of curve here, but when I put the straight edge on the car, it shouldn't matter if we keep everything straight because it's so close. If I would have cut back any further, then it would have mattered. So anyway, we'll go ahead and get a couple different height measurements at these different locations. We have to account for the bends. So we'll go up, maybe, you know, run a straight edge across or something, and then just subtract 1/8 or something like that. But let's go ahead and get some height measurements and transfer them over to the template. All right, guys, so to make this easier, I'm going to go ahead and cut this into 2 pieces. We'll cut basically this top piece. This piece we're not actually going to cut out because it's not going to work. What we would need to do is cut a nice flat strip of about 7/8 or 3/4, and then make it go along this edge here and whatever. I really need this contour here and this piece here to line up really well. So we're going to cut this piece out and test fit it. All right, so I left a little bit around the edges. We'll go ahead and trim that up as we fit it to the car. All right, guys, so it's close, but we need to adjust it. So I'm very happy with this side here. I can go ahead and trim this piece off here. This might be good on height. And then when we get down here, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm off here. The flange extends a little further. So if we're looking at this piece I cut out right here, I need to go a little further, and then I'm way up over here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up and get it all to fit really good. And what we'll likely have to do is go back and cut another piece because you can see over here I'm kind of short even on height. So, and then when we get over here to the frame rail, I'm missing a nice chunk. So let's go ahead and get this thing fit up. And all this is going to be is just a lot of cutting and fitting, cutting and fitting. All right, guys, so here's the final product for the one side of the frame rail. I believe what I'm going to do is leave a flange on the ends of these so that I can have a nice tight fit and give me something to weld to inside the existing frame rail. I think we're pretty good here. And you can see that we weren't too far off, but just enough to make things difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and work on this side. All right, guys, so after a lot of cutting and fitting, we got this piece too. Again, I left a little flange here. This is probably all the more I'll need to do this welding up against here, but the flange will go in like that, give me some extra strength and material to weld to, and then this piece is going to go on just like that. So we're good on this piece. We're going to go ahead and basically make this piece up here now. So, and then we'll have all 3 and we'll be able to tape them together and make a really good detailed template for us. So let's go ahead and make this piece. All right, guys, so I just want to show you, this is where we messed up before by using one piece of paper. So it looks like if we take our template here and we lay it over, you can see that we have some extra material up here and we have a lot up here. So this is where we picked up our extra width right here. So I'm hoping that by doing these 3 pieces individually and then taping them together, we get a much better template to use to make this piece. So anyway, let's go ahead and make this piece. All right, guys, so we got all 3 sides cut out. So now I'm going to go ahead and tape them together and try them out on the car, see how everything looks. All right, guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and transfer that to sheet metal, and hopefully we get close this time. So let's go ahead and try it out. All right, so we got the piece cut out, and now I'm just cutting out these holes here. Basically, I just took a drill bit and went through, and then I'm going to use this double cut burr to clean up the edges. If I had them, I'd use a hole saw, but I don't have any good hole saws right now, so this is the next best thing, I guess. So anyway, go ahead and get these cut out, and then we'll start bending this and get it fit. All right, guys, we got the piece cut. We got the holes in there, so we just put this in there like so, and that's the start of it. So now we're going to take it over to the brake and bend the edges down. I transferred the lines to the back to make that a little easier. All right, guys, so this is a Harbor Freight flanging tool plus punch. Never really used it before, maybe once or twice, but I think it'll work good here. So basically I need to flange these edges so that I have a nice piece that fits inside the other frame rail, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so the next thing we have to do is sort of put a curve to this piece here, similar to what we did in the first piece where it didn't fit well. We got to get a nice curve, basically all the way around, like the whole way across. And that's where it kind of matches up with the body of the car. In order to do that, I just take this round piece here, and I'll take the body hammer and just sort of start working that down over this here. All right, guys, so the next thing I gotta do is bend this flange down. Because it's not straight, I can't use the brake here. So basically I'm gonna take a piece of angle iron, clamp this down to the bench, and hit it with the hammer. All right, guys, we got success here on our second attempt. So we're good to go with the reproduction frame rail. I guess it is reproduction. I mean, I made it, right? But anyway, this piece fits pretty nice. I did have to persuade it a little bit in certain areas, but it fits a lot better than my first attempt. And if we take a look here, you can see I left some tabs on there to make welding this to the existing frame rail a little stronger. So everything is pretty good, definitely nice and sturdy compared to the piece we ripped off. So this just takes these tabs here, and you can see how that turned out too, where it's different kind of contour a little bit. I trimmed up the flange to be even the whole way down. So this piece now just kind of slides in, and there we go. So we are good to go. I am going to order 2 torque boxes. I can get both for $120. That's you know, a reasonable price compared to 2 frame rails for $250 each for just this section. So in this case, I just felt that, you know, making this piece here was worth the effort versus spending $500 on frame rails to cut off this small section. Now I may have been able to resell the other half, but just didn't want to do that. So I'm always fascinated when people make things out of sheet metal, you know, when they make complex parts and everything. So I like doing it. I enjoy this stuff here. So that's worth it to me to learn how to do that and make some different parts. So anyway, good to go here. I'm going to order the torque boxes so we have them for next weekend, and we'll get this one hopefully taken care of, and then we can jump to the other one. I don't want to take off the other frame rail until we get this part repaired here. So it's pretty cool. Definitely happy with this. And it was a fun project, so don't be afraid to try things. All right, guys, so in the next video, I hope to start ripping into these torque boxes. I'm gonna go ahead and order that so I have them for this weekend. Again, we can get 2 of those for 120 bucks. That's worth it to me. So I think they're reasonably priced. So I'm gonna go ahead and order those. And then we have to decide, are we gonna rip out the entire torque box or just cut out a section that's bad and replace it? Because most of the torque box is good. We'll see you in the next one.